We often say on this channel that you can't hate journos enough, but in this case, I'm afraid some journos are better than others because it has come to light the ANC really don't want to be questioned at all.
So this is the news in response to the MEC in Johannesburg, your area, Ramon, where apparently they were asking them why they were doing some forms of investigation into Paul Mashatile. Now, we're not going to speculate on the investigation because that's not really interesting to us. But what is interesting is the approach taken. The MEC basically turned around and told the journo to shut up, you racist white man, and how dare he ask him whether or not he knew how to do his job. Is it because he's black and stuff? I mean, that's the only reason, right, that any journo holds anyone to account.
Yeah, and the interesting part is, no, it's not because you're black that we think you're not doing your job. It's because you're part of the ANC, and doing your job is sort of not a prerequisite for working within the ANC. But there is a voice note floating around. Just take a listen to this.
Stop harassing me. Once they give me a report, I'll fucking give you that report. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this?
Why are you so angry, sir?
No, man. No, because you have been racist. You have been...
Why am I being racist?
Stop being racist and doing the things. Not because you are racist. Your attitude. Firstly, you started questioning when we said GPF must investigate. Now you are asking me...
So how does that make me a racist? I'm just doing my job.
You don't... No, you're not doing your job. You are the racist.
So, Byron, I mean, the only assumption I can make is that, well, unfortunately, the journos aren't to be supported in this particular case. I mean, I hate to say it, but asking a question of a government official is not being racist. It's like part of the job, right?
Well, no, wrong. Because when you hold any government individual into account in South Africa, as we know, the only reason anybody ever does it is because, you don't believe in black excellence. And it also means that you just don't believe that a black man can do his job. The fact that he isn't doing his job and the fact that he is deliberately trying to withhold information and frustrate an investigation into potential corruption or fraud allegations has absolutely nothing to do with it. I mean, as we know, when in doubt, cry racism. And when you put someone under pressure, well, they're going to cry racism even more. And it's with this in mind that Public Interest SA came out and actually said that this symbolizes a problem in South Africa, and it's that of weaponized identity politics. Basically, wherever you want to avoid being held accountable, wherever you feel that you don't really want to answer those difficult questions, all you do is go, shut up, you racist white man. And I'm pretty sure we've seen this before, Ramon.
I think we've been called racist white men before as well, but, as the clip shows and as the story shows, we're not racist white guys, we just, journos. Well, I mean, I wouldn't call myself a journo, to be honest. I don't want to be tarred with that brush. But Byron, a question for you. Does this seem like an ANC member who is fully confident in their power? Could this be the first crack to signify that maybe the ANC are really worried about losing Gauteng and they just don't know how to deal with that? So they're just going to call everyone a racist from now on until next year.
I think it's highly likely because if you look at what came out on the weekend, Ramaphosa went to address the Gauteng province because they're on track to lose the Gauteng province in 2024. And he basically addressed the Moonshit Pact and he basically said, this is a sideshow, guys. It means nothing. It's just some, white men trying to all just sound important. So there you go again. It appears that wherever we do put the ANC under pressure, your melanin content matters far more than the content of the job that they're doing. But you know why I find that most interesting, Ramon? Because Ramaphosa came out on the weekend and basically said minorities in this country are largely ignored. And it was the ANC's fault that they were ignored.
So no doubt everyone's like, oh, look, Ramaphosa, he's finally becoming the great reformer. No, he was speaking at the UDF, right? The United Democratic Front, which was the front for the ANC during the course of apartheid, to make it seem like the ANC was more democratic and liberal than it actually was. So now that he says, oh, minorities have been ignored, I'm calling bullshit on that. Minorities have not been ignored in South Africa. They have been attacked over and over and over again. And calling white journalists racist, stupid men by an ANC member is a stark example of minorities being attacked, not ignored.
Yeah, but you remember when Ian Cameron was told to shut up? I think we all remember that clip, don't we?
Shut up! Shut up!
But this symbolizes the ANC's, should we say, distaste for anybody that tries to hold it to account. I find it grossly interesting the way that Ramaphosa addressed this. The reason I say grossly is because he says it like, oh, look, we just forgot you. You didn't forget us, mate. that guy that pushed the kid in the pool. You may recall that he went out on stage saying, "Oh, you don't need to fear white men anymore because they're just insignificant in this country anymore." Is that forms of neglect? Is that forms of forgetting them?
No, what about the case of, EWC, for example? We need to return the land to its rightful owners because apartheid or something. That's not ignoring minorities or the BE legislation that prevents whites from being in the public sector and in the private sector as well. That's not ignoring minorities whatsoever. Jailing Indians in Phoenix for protecting their community against looters during the July peaceful protest. That doesn't seem like ignorance of minorities. I'm starting to believe, Byron, that Ramaphosa might be full of shit, but it could just be me.
But remind me, Ramon, recently we saw a case in Gauteng of a school that basically got accused of being racist because it took a specific hair code. That school has now been closed down. But you know what we did see in Gauteng, which we see very normally now in that side of the world, is whenever there's a whiff of racism, the ANC government, which is in charge of the educational departments, come right out there and they run with it for a mile to the point where you actually have to close a school down. And in many instances, I'm not saying we don't know enough about the case in this school, but in many instances, the whole racism cry 9 times out of 10 turns out to be unjustified and full of shit.
Famously, Panyaza Sufi called the head boy of a school a racist. He was stripped of his scholarship. He was no longer able to attend school. And then now, a year later, we're finding out that there is no claim whatsoever. All of those accusations against that particular head boy, who happened to be Afrikaans, just don't exist. So now, what are the recourses for this particular man? The Freedom Front Plus to take on his case. Hopefully, Panyaza Sufi's anti-Afrikaner rhetoric can be taken head on. But again, it's another indication that minorities haven't been ignored. And as speaking as minority, I would love to be ignored in this country. I would love to be like, get on with my work, not focus on anti-white legislation. And I'm sure many Indians and colors and whites all over this country would love to be neglected by the ANC. But we're not. We're attacked on a daily basis.
Yeah, but the problem is, Ramon, if they ignore you and they constantly ignore you, then where are they going to get the revolutionary fervor, the desire of the masses to drastically change the country? Expropriate property and NHI and all those lovely little looting frenzies that the ANC likes to be involved with. So at the end of the day, a lot of the time, minorities are the red herrings used to advance the ANC's own political agendas. So when the ANC says, well, we've been ignoring minorities, let us remind ourselves that, no, you haven't. You've used minorities as a scapegoat, and where minorities have tried to ask you simple questions like, why aren't you doing your job, buddy? Why are you stealing lots of money? Then all we hear is cries of,
stop being racist and